Okay, so we are here for module 6, moving right along in the chakra system. So thank you all for being here, and for those sisters who are listening to the recording later, we welcome you, welcome you. So let's take a moment to get here present with all of us in this technological space, and you can close your eyes, get situated, and just find your breath. And as you enter into more presence in your own body, feeling the surroundings, where you are, how you're being held, either in the room that you're in the home that you're in the office you're in, maybe you're outside with Gaia. And feeling how held you are, because this is something that we often forget when we're feeling overwhelmed or upset or are in the mix of our woundings. You are held. You are held by the unseen, by your guides and guardians. You are held as the cosmic forces move through you and as you. You are held as the earth animates inside of you. Being held is one of the greatest blessings of this incarnation. And noticing in your own being what it feels like to have this level of guardianship, to have a space where you can just simply be. And in this holding, this energetic grid gets anchored within inside of you so that you can then hold for others. You can be the container for others to release, to be witnessed. And there's this beautiful cyclical pattern that gets created inside of that person's field. And it gets translated to whomever they then choose to hold. And this is how we weave safety and unification and repattern self. And so feeling all of us as a collective sisterhood, held and honored, so that we may offer this to others through our sacred work and dharma in this world. In this moment, May you offer yourself permission to be held by the unseen even more. And may you make a commitment to your own self and how you will hold your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, your visions, your dreams, your desires. Because in the holding is growth, and in the growth, there will be birth. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. And so when you're ready, you can very gently open your eyes. So we welcome you all. Before we begin, we have some announcements, as we usually do. So this year, obviously, this practitioner training program is different because it's a very different time on our planet's timeline, and things that we've always felt very assured about are uncertain. And so because of this specific container of the Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program, and not knowing when our retreat will happen, whether it will actually be during this program or after this program or next summer, whenever that is, we, myself and Joe and Karuna and Ulasita, have been dreaming of different ways to serve this sisterhood and the intimacy of this sisterhood, because oftentimes that has been what has gotten created during the retreat. And so today we're going to send out a survey. It's coming out around 2 o'clock this afternoon Pacific time. It's going to take literally 2 minutes or less of your time. So really, really, really quick. But there's 3 questions on there that are going to help serve if you're wanting more sister connections. So some of you may feel really fine with what you're receiving here in the calls and in the Facebook group and with your mentor, and life is full, and that just may feel perfect. And some of you want to know more about these women here and their gifts and their wounds and their challenges and their great joys. And so if that is something that you want, we want to help cultivate that. So we're sending out a survey this afternoon that we are requesting that you complete by Friday. So we're giving you 3 days because it really is going to take a minute, 2 minutes maybe. And just some other ideas that have come forth for us. So that would be great. And if you're not interested in any of it, you don't even have to fill out the survey. So it will take no time. So there's that piece. And then the other thing is, we will be sharing in a few weeks about practice circles that we are going to, that you're going to be participating in August. And so you'll be placed in specific practice circles. And these circles are for you to be a practitioner and have a client, as one of your sisters will be a client, and to also have time to witness a session, because there's so much we learn when we witness, and there's so much we learn obviously when we're the practitioner. So we will be giving you groups and schedules in the next couple weeks that will begin in August. So more to come on that. And I know that some of you internationally will still be waiting for essences for some time. I was just tracking essences that I sent to Canada 3 weeks ago. I know, Tamara, you got yours, which is great. But even from 3 weeks ago, and the Postal Service said it would take about 10 days. And there's, the other Canadian sisters, I don't think, when I checked on Saturday, had not yet received. So our UK sisters, New Zealand sister, it's going to be some time. So please just bear with that, with your patience. It could be another month or 5 weeks. I have no idea. I sent something to the UK 3 weeks ago, and I paid extra this was for Gaia's Wisdom. I paid extra so that it would take a week. And the woman just emailed me back 3 weeks later that she tracked it and it's still in Los Angeles. So it's like, we're just rolling with what's happening here. Yeah, Tamara, I know in Canada, they hold everything. And I was noticing that actually when I was tracking the Canadian packages over the weekend, they all looked like they were being held in Vancouver. So I'm glad you got yours, but I know it just may take time, customs and traveling and all of these things. So I appreciate all of your understandings and patience, because that's all we can really have right now. Am I missing any announcements, Ulasita, Joe, or Karuna? I feel like those were the main ones, but I could very well have missed one. Okay, looks like I'm all good. Okay. And also, well, there's 2 other things I want to say. Because this came up actually in our conversation, me and Joe and Karuna and Ulasita last week, of visions that I hold for this container and other programs within Woman Rising, is that there's a paradigm that we've all been living into, and is true in many ways, of taking a program and coming to a program and making the payment financially, energetically, showing up and receiving, right? That's what we do. It's part of the commercial ideology, right? Is like consumerism. You buy something, you receive. And there's also just something I want to place within that, is that these kind of containers that we run, at least for Woman Rising, I don't want to speak about other containers, are meant to be a place of real connection and real engagement. And that we all know the expression of what you put into anything you receive. And I know that there's a lot every week of just filtering through your own personal exploration. And we want to really hear about that. I know it's so challenging sometimes to think about writing all of that in a Facebook post. There's a kind of an impersonal feeling at times. And yet, when one woman begins to open of what came forward for her, especially in the curriculum from last week, because I got a lot of emails about that after, it's pretty extraordinary what that then unleashes from any shackles of restraint in another woman. And I'm just reminding you of the power of speaking your vulnerabilities into this space, because it instantaneously creates intimacy. And I know that intimacy is actually what each of us are really craving, even more and more in our lives, because intimacy is a wound that we each carry in varying degrees. So just a loving reminder that this is a place of engagement. And you all have been really engaged, and it's been so beautiful. I was sharing with Joe and Karuna and Ulasita that, I've been loving, the questions that are being asked on our calls and in Facebook group. And there's all these other layers that we carry and we hold that really want and need to be expressed for our greatest health. So the invitation is here to speak your truth in whatever way. So if that's speaking your emotional vulnerabilities and wounds, and also even in this survey that we're sending out, if you have something that you really want from this program that you don't see here, let us know. It's really important. We're usually a yes to most things and sometimes we don't see certain things because every eyes get to dream things into form in a different way. So please let us know any reflections, any needs that you have that we could perhaps meet for you. Okay, so let's move to this module. We are continuing the upward movement from the second chakra to the third chakra. So this again, when I was speaking a couple weeks ago, the first three chakras are the areas that you're mostly going to be focused on, especially with new clients. And this could be for a few months, it could be a few years, depending on the level of trauma. And then if we have time, we may shift it to next week, we'll see, or we may do half of it. We're going to talk about protection, because this is really a huge subject, and it started to come up, I think, last week or the week before, about protection and with clients. And there's always, it's kind of an essential conversation, especially for all of us here as both empaths and sensitive beings. And also, if you're interested in flower essences, you have a belief that everything's energetic. And so the protection essences are going to be important for you, for all of us. So we'll see how far we get. We may just shift some things also to next week, which is fine as well. So if you want to bring up your manual for this week, let me pull mine up. Okay, so as we've done, each time I've shared a little bit about where it is in your body, what it does, the actions, and then the essences. So the third chakra sits in the area of the solar plexus. So in between your ribs and your belly button. Its element is fire. It's that sun energy. And its color is like flame-like, so ranging from blue to yellow, white. When you, see it as a static color, it's more of that yellow. And it distributes energy throughout the body systems, which include the circulatory system, the lungs, and the digestion as well. It's connected to. It's connected to our minds, our left brain thinking, and this chakra begins to individuate as soon as a child, again in the most perfect conditions, learns to close that second chakra, right? It's not safe. When the child learns to say no. So if you've been around children If you have a child, you know that that moment of saying no is actually very, very important. When I was young, because it was a different generation, the no was seen as being very defiant and being against the will of the parents. But actually, a no is so important. And it's something that we actually want to applaud, because it means that the child feels safe enough in an environment to say no. This is my body, or no, I don't want to eat those carrots, or whatever it is. It's such an important milestone of development for a child. And what happens at that no, as you know from your own personal experience, is that it gets squashed and it gets silenced. And that's where that second chakra really has confusion, because its natural inclination is, I'm closing, it's not safe, no. But then it gets repeated conditionings, repeated parenting, you must not say no, right? That's you cannot go against what I'm saying. And remember that a child's no is absolutely not based in rationality. It's based in the moment of its own truth, and whether or not it feels safe to then project that truth out. So it's a very, very, very important moment in time. And it's not just a moment, it's, many months of a child being able to say no. So this chakra, the third chakra, has two primary functions. One is it collects information from the other chakras, and it as it collects this information, it makes it into an understandable whole. Our sense of what is real comes through the integration of these pieces that are collected and made into a whole. And so it assembles various parts of the self, of yourself, all of the information from the past, present, and what it does with that is that it creates a sense of identity. And this is really, when we start to look at how the chakras feed upon each other, we start to realize, wow, okay, if that second chakra never learned to take in pleasure, if that second chakra never understood worthiness or deservability, then of course it makes sense that as you grow and you grow and you become more relational in the world, you understand why that third chakra goes, I don't even know who I am. Because how could you know who you are if your self-worth has been squashed, if boundaries have been crossed, and then if we go even back farther to the first chakra, if you haven't felt safe? It's like it totally makes sense. And it's kind of in my years of doing this work, it's just so common to hear women say, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know actually even who I am. And so we go, oh, as a practitioner, okay, there's compromise in the third chakra. Let's look at the second, and let's look at the first. So here's where we start to see a little bit of the system come forth, right? So, okay, so that's the first part. It's like it takes all of these pieces and it creates an identity of who you are. Now, what happens a lot is that identities get created for us, right? As children, you're the good one, you're the naughty one, you're the wild one, you're the black sheep, you're the blah, blah, blah. And guess what? The third chakra it creates these imprints and this sluggishness of trauma. And that's the identity that we believe to be true, right? It was like where people, I've heard stories from people who were told, in elementary school, you're not smart, right? You're not smart, you're not getting it, you're behind. And they're 40-year-old, very successful people who still believe they're not smart because they're these identities that we take on like clothes, and we say, that's who I am. And then we have these dreams inside of us, and we say, well, how can I live that dream because I don't even know who I am? So there's all this confusion. And so the third chakra also is about your will force and how you manifest or will manifest. So chakra 3, as you create this identity, it also then projects energy out in the world. It projects who you are in the world, right? So when we think, when we plan, when we create, perform actions, we're using this chakra. And so the initial reflex is usually mental. We think about what we want to do. We think about how to be in the world. And as we do this, energy streams from this chakra and begins to create sort of an energetic glove, which our actions fit into. It's sort of like our identity, right? We get something gets created and we just step into that. And the next reflex is the action. And so we can either live in, the true knowing of who we are, or the illusory identifications that we take on that maybe were never really ours or true, or maybe we're true at a certain point and now we've grown and evolved. And so we're always creating our lives energetically and entering into the field that we've projected. And so that's why this third chakra is part of how we then manifest in the world. And this, I think, is often left out when we talk about manifestation, because we think about, putting it on your altar, putting it in your vision board, and just, holding that vision. But part of that is creating the energetic grid and stepping into that. And we can only step into that when we believe we're worthy of actually experiencing that which we want to step into. So it's intricate, right? It's not just as simple as place an altar and believe it to be true. It's about dismantling the beliefs and the old ways of identifying. So what we call circumstance, which is like things that feel like they happen to us, are actually results of the emanations of this energy center. And so many of this is conscious, but some comes from our subconscious. So this means that chakra 3 is really projecting out our plans, our hopes, our dreams, and our fears. Who am I to think that I could have that? And so these projections bring people, things, events, and circumstances to us. I think a lot of times people use the word luck, lucky. Oh, I just got lucky. But there's a conscious way, actually, that you're bringing into the field these heart songs, and you're then stepping into them and living them in all different layers of your own self. So the energy that's used by chakra 3 is the energy that's taken in by chakra 2 when it experiences, or as it experiences, pleasure. And these two chakras working together comprise this aspect of our self-esteem. It's like self-worth and confidence coming together, right? And this is how, when chakra 2 is healthy, it's like, of course I'm meant to receive, I'm worthy. And then it moves to the third chakra. Well, of course I'm confident to put myself out there, to be seen, to be visible, to manifest, because I believe in myself. So they really work, they really, really, really work together. So last week when we were talking about the second chakra, one of the things that I had mentioned was that a lot of the lilies are for the second chakra, specifically for all different kinds of betrayals. So when we talk about the third chakra, the the plants that really resonate with that are within the daisy family. And so I'm going to show you some essences that you have that are balancing, that are stabilizing, that help that third chakra really harness the energetic of the sun, of your personal will, of that fiery activation of self through love, through the essence of who you are. Okay, so let's look at some of the essences that you have in your collection. So all of you know Sunflower, so let's start there, okay? Because she's a beautiful one, because we all have a visual of her, of how Sunflower just reaches for the sun, right? It's like Sunflower, there's I have a neighbor a few houses down who just has a field of sunflowers right now, and they're about, I don't know, they're probably 12 feet high. And when I walk past there, it's just like you feel the glory of those sunflowers, right? It's just like you feel that expression of golden light and emanation, and sunflower just it evokes and brings forth your own confidence of yourself. It kind of even looks like the third chakra, right? It's like got that beautiful circular center with those rays moving out. It's like that's who you are. That's who we really are. We've just forgotten, we've believed things that aren't true, but that's really who you each are. And I know that you know that. And there's certain people who bring that out in you. There's certain moments, there's certain behaviors like dancing or swimming or community, or where that sunflower within just bursts forth. And so sunflower is an amazing ally for standing in that radiance, that confidence, while projecting that outward. So if you remember what the third chakra looked like when I drew it in the other weeks, it was the energy's going out, right? Whereas the second chakra, the energy is coming in. This is out. It's all out. So sunflower can help treat fear of success, fear of failure, any fears really that we have around being confident. Okay, black-eyed Susan. So, you can see that the daisies all look very similar. They have that, kind of button in the center of the petals with seed patterns, and they're in spirals and swirls. And so we have black-eyed Susan. Black-eyed Susan is a really powerful flower. So what this essence does is it helps to bring forth information that has been suppressed or edited out of the identity. Maybe things that as a child you were taught were wrong or bad. And I think this is such an interesting point. I'm actually just thinking about this right now, because something happened with my son last night so he's 4, so he's like the ideal kind of person to be bringing forth in all of this, because this is when so many of the experiences we have coalesce into our belief systems, right? All the way from, birth to 4 is like such an intense time for all of this. And so he had, actually, I can't remember, something happened he wanted to have a treat or something. And I told him that we weren't going to have treats tonight. And he just like lost it. It was just like a full explosion of emotions. And then my partner came in, and my son was so upset that he was like pinching and scratching. And when he calmed down, one of the things that I heard my partner saying, because I sort of left the space for them to have their journey together, and it brings me to this moment, and something that, I don't think many of us had, is he said to him something like, it's not a choice to touch other bodies or to pinch or scratch or hurt, and you didn't do anything wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. You're not wrong. You're not bad, right? Because as soon as children get reprimanded, because they see things as black or white, they begin to make it about who they are. And I've seen my son right now, he's moving into some other developmental phase where I don't know if I can even put into words because I'm just really tracking it right now. I'm just like, for me, it's like having a person that I'm learning even more right now about trauma and developmental processes. But I'm watching him have that understanding of, let me see if I can put into words, shame, right? So if he does something, or if he upsets me, or he feels like he's upset me, there's this other layer beginning to come forth. So he's 4. So this is advanced technologies that our children and that we all went through. And I will say, I did not have conscious parents who were available and noticing my upsets or anything that was happening. And so I feel like I have tools, and I'm still witnessing my child move through these things that I can't really take away from him, which is, horrible. And so I bring this forward because this piece around ways we've kind of edited ourselves, edited our identities so we fit in, so we don't have shame, so we don't have guilt, so we don't feel like we're bad. These are kind of survival mechanisms that are potentially still running your behavior and choices right now. It's so multi-layered. It's so multi-layered, so intricate how the psyche and then the body receives everything. So Black-Eyed Susan is an essence that you want to use with somebody once they're more conscious that perhaps there's things that have been edited out or that have been forgotten or that have been exiled, and they're ready to start bringing these things forward. Okay, right. This essence is good for adults who fear doing the wrong thing or making mistakes because, maybe when they did that as children, they were yelled at, they were hit, right? So we carry all this, right? It's like people who are so anxious about making the wrong choice that they don't make a choice. I mean, I think anyone here ever done that? I have. And that's just, that anxiety is part of what happened in the past. And so these essences free us. These essences really create liberation. So this is fleabane, beautiful fleabane. And fleabane helps to heal suppression of the feminine. So places you have been victimized, powered over, this is an amazing essence to use. She's really for all women, because whether we've had it personally or culturally, the suppression of the feminine has been here, right? The goddess has been left out of the temple for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, then we have beautiful echinacea, which is, we know echinacea as an herb. Echinacea is one of those, very popular herbs that most of us know about for the immune system. And echinacea is, again, it's similar to the black-eyed Susan in that you want to use it a little bit later in the process because it helps. So I'll just read this to you because it really is understandable. When there's been trauma, part of that chakra, the third chakra, recedes, and then the rest of the chakra forms kind of like a scar, right? And then something gets triggered, and that trauma part comes out, reaction. And then something happens with that reaction. Perhaps you're not heard, perhaps there's more trauma, and another layer covers it. And so echinacea can help by bringing the issues and helping them to remain conscious. So it can prevent suppression of an aspect of the conflict or splitting of personality. So, a lot of times the mind creates fragmentation. I'm just going to keep this over in this area. I'm just going to lock that up. I'm going to actually forget I have the key, and I'm never going to look at that ever again. But it's there, and it hasn't been brought in. And so when we have wounding, which we always will, these pieces that haven't been unified actually are the ones that get most agitated. And so echinacea is really about, bringing forth that which you haven't wanted to look at, that is actually integral for you to exert your personal will force in the world. So again, a person has to be ready, and you're not going to create harm if a person isn't ready. It just may not have the same impact. They may go like, oh, I didn't really feel so much this month from that essence. When they're ready, when you've gone and you've worked on the first chakra, and you've worked on the second chakra, and you've worked on the third chakra, and now you're like ready for the next part of the third chakra, there's these layers that come forth. Are the repair that gets created, I should say, is extraordinary. Chamomile. So chamomile has a relaxing presence to the nervous system, similarly to the tea, although it works on a more energetic way than a physical way, like an herbal tea. And this one of the, this flower, so she's tiny, but she's kind of like fleabane. Tiny, but so fragrant and so present. And, she can help to bring more joy, levity into your life. And also for people who tend to be kind of heavy and victim-y, chamomile can be really supportive for just kind of offering some upliftment, but in a way where it's not just like upliftment in the mind, it's upliftment of your own confidence and your personal will. Because, when you're confident, there's a lot that you get to accomplish. There's a lot that's really actively moving all the time. So she's an amazing ally, right? She shifts from what's going to go wrong to flowing with ease. And we'll talk more about this, the victim. I think every person carries victim energetics because of Judeo-Christianity that's really become, I was just reading an article the other day, I forget what it was. It was an article about Black Lives Matter, but really if we're going to be looking at Black Lives Matter, we have to look at all systems of oppression. One of those, at least in the United States, being Christianity, because it really is our national religion right? Every president who's quoting from the Bible. There's never been a president elected who's not Christian. There's, God bless America. That's how every president ends their speeches. And so we have to dismantle all of these systems of oppression. And within Christianity, I mean, the basis is that you've sinned. So you can't really exist in this world without carrying some energetic thread of being a victim. And sometimes this comes out in very obvious ways, like, oh, okay, poor me, I see the victim. A lot of times it's way more subtle. When I catch it in my own self, it's not blatant. It's not like, oh, I see that victim. It's way kind of softer and a little trickier, and every single one of us has layers of the victim, and something that is really important for us to be exploring in our own selves, because it's a way to keep us suppressed. It's a way to keep us from our own power, truth, and wisdom. And so chamomile can help with that victim part. And she does it in this like really sweet, beautiful way. Dandelion, another herb that we know that grows in our gardens and our yards. And she's the lion-hearted herb and can provide protection and courage, and of like that lion, though. It's different than like the courage of borage. This is like that, that real protectress, so that you can exert your individuality into the world. If there's addiction in the family line, in your own personal life, it can help to clear out some of those emotional imprints. And really, it's all of these third chakra essences are, it's like they have a job, and then it's like, so that then you can exert your light, exert your will force, be that warrioress, that outward energy. And my gosh, this is the time of the warrioress, the solar feminine being activated, that, women get shit done. And we do that when we love something. And the warrior and the warrioress are in service to love. So we exert our will because we love ourselves, and because we love that which we stand for, and because we love to be of service. And that's really the come from, right? We've kind of learned like, oh, if you're confident, then you're kind of, bragging, or you're fluffing your feathers. It's actually, that's not what this is. It's part of our divine blueprint to be in our glory and in our victories, and to radiate love through service, through action, right? So prayer and meditation and all of that is important. And then the action is the essential way that we create change. So we have to have our third chakras really activated to be the change. Okay, so let's just pause there. Let's pause there. I see some questions, and I want to see if there's questions about the third chakra before we shift to protection. So Anna, are there specific books about chakras and flower essences? I don't know. I don't know any. I don't know any. Does anyone else? No. I think getting a really good book about the chakras and then really studying your flowers is going to that may be, creating your own book, because I haven't seen something specifically about that. Okay, Diamira, I'm growing sunflowers in my garden. I have 3 kinds. I love them so much. They're bringing me so much joy. Yeah. Yeah, spend some time if you all can. If you can go out and find some sunflowers, or if you go to the farmer's market and you can bring them into your home, there's an upliftment, and maybe just, when you're with a sunflower, maybe tune into your own third chakra and see the resonance between the two. Kristen, I have fleabane in my yard. I've been wanting to make an essence and didn't know if we should take other essences from our practitioner. Yeah, so that's actually a great question, Kristen. It's not, I mean, you didn't ask it as a question, but it's something that we've had women ask in other years. Like, I'm really feeling called to take this essence, but I'm also on my formula for my practitioner. And so it's always just good to connect with your practitioner to say, hey, I'm feeling really called to work with this essence. Is that feeling okay for the journey that I'm on? It's always good to be in connect, and also to trust the plants that are calling you. And Kristen's also saying, I made a chamomile essence for my yard weeks ago. Okay. Okay. So Kristen, you're with Ulasita, right? Yeah, because I think you mentioned that last week. Yeah. Okay, great. So I would just reach out to her and say, hey, I'm feeling really called to work with these essences. And she may say, great, take them 3 drops 3 times a day. Or she may say, oh, you know what would be great is if you work with them, like take a drop and sit and start working with them, so that you're still really ingesting the formula that I gave you, but you're working with them. Or she may come up with something, just something else. So
yeah, I was like, okay, I have this sunflower and this flower, and I'm like, it's all these flowers in my yard, and I'm definitely having some like sister-in-law taking away my power, and I'm like, oh, maybe that.
yeah.
So I was gonna talk to her, email her to tell her what's been going on.
Yeah, definitely, please do. She's saying yes, yes, yes. Yeah, always know that you can reach out to your practitioners, and that's the thing that I was kind of saying in the beginning, is we have these tendencies to hold a lot and not speak them or share them, whether it's in the Facebook group or with our reaching out to our practitioner, like, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't reach out again, or I'll just figure this out on my own. But the invitation is to ask, 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 connect, connect, connect. So yeah, you may just like take that 1 drop of sunflower, and all of a sudden you've got your power back, and you know what to say to your sister-in-law to create a boundary. It may just take 1 drop. Those sounds like those daisies are in your garden for a reason. You've got fleabane, and you've got chamomile, you've got sunflower. So it sounds like, yeah, your third chakra is having some supportive plants grow around you. Thanks, Kristen. Okay, Seta, you're saying you've been studying the chakras through a chakra book, so maybe you want to share that specific one. Kate, Eastern Body, Western Mind is an in-depth book on chakras. So yeah, so Anna, you just maybe like, I want to go deeper into the chakras, and then based on what you're learning in this program, kind of merge it with that. Oh, Mammoth Sunflowers, yay, okay. Wheels of Life by Anna Dia Judith is kind of a classic chakra book. Lots of books coming in. Balancing the Wheels by Sarah Thomas Goulden. Okay, Onyx Goddess, I love your name. My appointment's next week. Keep thinking if I should work with certain essences I feel called to, but don't want to until I meet with Joe. So I feel like you haven't had your session with Joe, and if you feel called, just please take them, please. It's almost like when the plants call you and you don't do it, it's kind of almost torturous. You're just like, I have to be working with these plants. So please start taking them, and then when you have your session with Joe, you can expand on them more and share all the things that you've been, all the essences that have been working with you. Okay, any other questions or shares about the third chakra?
Actually, I want to share. So yesterday I was having a pretty intense day regarding putting my power out there, like existing in the world. And then it's funny that the third chakra was today, and like I got most of my answers kind of, or like it felt like a relief talking about it. So I wanted to put that out there, especially like the moon going into Scorpio yesterday. I was like, okay, intense energies. We're here for it.
Yeah, thank you. Intense times call for intensity, solar feminine, right? So, and something about the word that you used, Seta, actually brought tears to my eyes. Existence, right? And it's a really powerful word to think about, feel into your body. Like you exist. You are an amazing being. And because you exist, you have power and you have truth and you have wisdom. And that has to be expressed. So it's a good reminder for all of us, like I exist, and I have beliefs and I have thoughts and I have things that want to be spoken and I have visions that want to be dreamed into. I exist. Thank you. Okay, Barb, learning all of this is so much better than my day job. I'm so glad to hear that. I think that'll be our quote for the Woman Rising School. I love that.
It's better than your day job.
It's better than your day job. Okay. Diamira, I have a question about working with a client with this particular system. Wondering if you always must start at the root. Yeah, many I've worked with have had a tremendous amount of healing work, are pretty self-aware. So it just depends. We are going to talk about like the stages of healing, so you'll have a better maybe understanding of where they're at within that, right? Because everyone's going to come at different places. Some people are going to come completely brand new, and some have done years and years. But what I have found is it's kind of a both, right? So if somebody's coming to you because they don't know how to be in the world, right? They it's like that level of confidence hasn't been activated or amplified. It's like, yeah, you can just give them sunflower. Maybe it's like, oh, they just need a little thing because they've done a lot of work. But if a person's been in that cycle and it's like that, a pattern, right? Pattern is just like it keeps coming, right? So it keeps revealing. Maybe they have some time where it disappears and then it comes back. And then I would go deeper into, okay, what is still unresolved? Because there's always unresolved. There's always, I mean, I've been doing this work for 23 years since I was 19. And I feel like I'm always going into, like just the other day, I noticed a behavior in my own self. And I immediately recognized it as my mom. It was like, it was immediate. And I thought, oh, I still, I haven't gotten to that yet. I thought I did that 10 years ago when I had this pattern. And so it's like there's always more. And I think as a practitioner, we have to learn to trust our intuition and experimentation. So if you give somebody an essence, and let's say you give them sunflower and chamomile, and they come back and are just like, whoa, everything changed, then great. If they come back and they go, yeah, it was like, I kind of felt confident, then but not really, then you go, okay, I got to go deeper. There's pieces that aren't resolved, and there's pieces that, or there has been resolution in certain ways, but then there's, things that it's like, it is, I mean, people call it the peeling of the onion, or the unfurling of the rose. It's like the layers, right? So we get to this layer and we feel like, okay, good. I'm complete with that. And then there's another layer that reveals that's deeper, that maybe is more closely connected to the root. And maybe that resolves itself, or maybe years later, there's like another layer. So it's sort of a both and part of it is, where's the person at? How stable does their system feel? And this, again, is going to make more sense when we go through the stages. How stable are they? What layers of support do they have? Where are they in their life, right? Because there's very different talking to somebody who, is really floating around going, who am I? And what am I here to do? And what am I, compared to somebody who's very successful in a lot of different parts of their life. Maybe they're successful in their relationship or marriage, or successful as a parent, or successful financially, or in their work. There's all different layers of success. And you're going to meet that person from a really different energetic than the person who's like, I have no idea who I am, or how to be who I am. So it's sort of a both, and just just really trusting that we're not going to hurt anyone. And there's sometimes you make a formula and it's just like, oh my gosh, that was epic. It was so perfect. Like everything changed. And other times where you go like, okay, that was good. That was a pretty good one. Like they had some change, but it wasn't like we didn't quite get there. And so you just adjust and you recreate. What if the success is not where they want the success to be? The focus of their soul's calling has changed. So do you mean, Denise, that, okay, because there's a couple ways that I'm interpreting this, so I want to make sure. So one is they come to you for something, and then in the process, something else.
So no, more so like I can use myself as an example.
Yeah.
So, I have a successful business, but I feel that like 2 years ago when, I began my journey, it's not what I want. I thought money was everything. And so I have now spiritually, I'm being called to more. And so there's a shift, and there's been a shift in my body. So is that something that, because you mentioned about success, so obviously I'm sure that especially as we go on, there will be specific essences that will help, because in my business I've always been extremely successful, but it's no longer what I want.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a couple things coming forth. One is, well, I think it's really important that and this is just like not necessarily, important to your specific to your question, but I do think it is important for us to really differentiate and define what success is, because success often means financial. And when I use the word success, I will say financial success, because actually, to me, there's something really successful in you knowing that's not your truth anymore. So I'm just putting that out there for all of us, of like, what is success? Because we think of it in terms of finances, and it's more than that. So the second thing is, this is a place that many, 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 many people get to in their lives. And it really, for me, is a sacred crossroads. It is that moment where you can keep on living the dream that you maybe dreamed years ago, that's not in resonance, or you can shift into what is resonant. And it's called a sacred crossroads because it's an essential and an ascending point of your growth and evolution, because it's very scary at that crossroads. It's like, you don't really want to go back, and you're ready for something different, but what's about to happen? And it's something that, people go through in different parts of their life. So you're specifically talking about like your work, but a lot of people feel this about their marriages, relationships, ideologies that they've held, right? That they go, whoa, this is not my truth anymore. And to excavate yourself, literally, like to take yourself out of that, takes a lot of energy. Emotional, physical, mental, spiritual energy. And if you don't, it literally takes your energy, right? You can get sick, you're exhausted, you're taxed, because when you don't live in resonance with your soul, you don't have access to self. So this sacred crossroads is a powerful place in the path where you get to redefine who you are, what success means, and have the courage to live in full alignment. And that's really hard in a world that is constantly defining for us what we should value. And this is a story I think we hear a lot, like people, women, men, who are like, I wanted to be really financially successful. Like I went for it. And then you kind of get there and you're like, oh, is this it? Is this what I wanted? And so, this is the beauty of a liberated incarnation, is you have the ultimate choice to say what it is that you want. And the flower essences will absolutely support the process. And it's going to take a lot, because you're not just extricating yourself from like, oh, I'm just going to not work. It's extricating yourself from past values, past beliefs, cultural conditionings. It's like, yeah, you're taking a deep breath. Yeah, it's big. And it's absolutely possible. And it's amazing. And I think, one thing that might be really nice is to find people who have done that and use them as inspiration. Like I have a dear friend who worked in corporate world for many, many years and was financially successful, made a lot of money. And, it was great. She bought a home and land, and she has 3 children, and she was the breadwinner. And it was this like, and she got so sick that she had to leave. And what she's created since that time in the last 12 years is extraordinary. And she probably now has just as much financial success as she did years ago, but it's in soul alignment. It's congruent, and that's the ultimate. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You're welcome. So I would say, really use this community as you go through this, because you kind of need people when you're going to make big choices, and especially with finances, that brings up all these other aspects.
Well, I'm a financial planner, so that's I think been the biggest thing is, like you said, you know, you mentioned your friend, and for me, that's what happened 2 years ago. All these like things started manifesting in my body, and sick for no reason, which obviously I know there's reasons behind it, but I'm really looking forward to actually meeting with Joe and just finding you, like the synchronicity behind our lives, I think is amazing, and it's the magic that exists. So very, very grateful for it. So thank you.
Yeah. You know, this same friend who I'm just talking about, she has a business now that's based in being a mystic and mysticism. And she always talks about a third door. Like there's these things that we see, right? It's like, oh, we have this option or this option. It's like either I stay with, you know, what's totally not resonating, or it's kind of like we think of the worst scenario. And then there's always just that there's always another option. Sometimes we don't see it right away. There's always a third door. And like my mind's just like exploding with ideas for you as a financial planner, if you even want to stay in that line of work, of how to make it more spiritual and mystical. And of course, you may just want to leave that path completely. So um, I, you know, I think people outside of us obviously can always see greater things. And for you, it's just going to be just stepping out of beliefs, conditionings, and what you've known to be true until this moment. And many of us are going to have those times in our lives in all different ways. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's see how much we can do in like 20 minutes or so. Let's see how far we can get. Okay, so if you look on what page is this? 5 of the Wool Manual, The Importance of Protection Flower Essences. So there is an energetic field that is anchored between chakra 2 and chakra 3. So, you know, like kind of right above your belly button. And it emanates upward and downward and outward and inward. And it's really, you know, if you can think about it like an auric field. So if you're familiar with auras, you can think about it more as like kind of like a bubble. So it's this field of subtle energy which surrounds you, which interacts with your physical body, your mental body, your spirit body. And of course, the outside of the field then interacts with the world. So this field truly protects your incarnation. It's what keeps you from being harmed energetically. So from other people's energies, from energetic attachments, from EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, which are, you know, every year as technology grows, are more and more around us. And of course, you know, our countries want to have 5G, which is even more EMFs that come into the body. And there's a lot of science about the physical detriment that those frequencies will create in the body. Trauma and shock and travel. And so you want to know how to really first repair this field, but then also to really preserve it, because it's sort of like if the field is intact, then everything that exists within the field has a greater chance of being whole and strong. So now there's different signs that protection essences will be beneficial. So you have a whole 8 collection of just protection. There are essences that are, you know, tree essences, or even in your flower collection, that of course are protective, but these 8 essences are really specific, like that's part of their action. So signs that you might need a protection essence, you get exhausted or you get physical symptoms when around certain people. You're undergoing a lot of emotional processing, which is the world we're living in right now. You're having nightmares or bad dreams, often repeatedly, because this is telling us that there's memories or energies that are being touched in from the subconscious through your dream space. You feel spacey, you feel disconnected from your body, you're ultra sensitive to other people. And so I want to just pause here with that, is that being sensitive and empathetic is an amazing, amazing quality. And it's also understanding that you can be empathetic without having a physical disruption in your system. And that's really important for us, because I think a lot of us almost feel like they go hand in hand. Well, if I'm empathetic, I'll feel it in my body and that will be like a lot. But you can actually feel very deeply and not take anything on or in that's not yours. And of course, if you have tremendous trauma or have experienced tremendous trauma in the system. So let's look at some of our protection essences here. Okay, so let's start with Angelica. So Angelica is, gosh, she's such a beautiful flower. She's got this hollow tubular stem with these really delicate, beautiful white flowers. And so she has this angelic vibe to her, like she provides this sort of angelic presence to the field. She's also very strong, her stem that's hollow can grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and is anchored so deeply into the earth. So she provides this angelic presence while feeling so strong in yourself within this field. She can create repair of any tearing that has happened in this field. So anytime there's been trauma, this field gets impacted. And so it can rupture, it can tear, it can become bulbous, it can have hooks inside of it. And so she really helps to create repair within the field. Of course, you can use her when somebody's going through tremendous change. There's challenge to the field. Anyone who's going through a lot of emotional releasings, like Denise, this would be a great one for you, of like, how do I stay connected to my soul when maybe there's a lot of fears about pivoting in my work and shifting from that financial success? Like Angelica just provides that beautiful resonance of the angels, of your own energetic field that is whole and holy unto itself. And really, when that field is strong, everything that exists within the field is strong. Okay, white sage. So we know that white sage is a powerful herb that we use to light and clear space, that the smoke clears. But white sage is, as a flower essence, it provides this incredible clearing of your energetic field. So anything that's not serving you, anything that's attached to you, that's not of your essence, is released in this really easeful and grace-filled way. So really thinking about the white sage similarly to how you would use it as a smudging. It's really purifying. It's really purifying. Hummingbird sage. Hummingbird sage is such a beautiful flower because of how it blooms. And when I this was the first flower essence I ever collected in California. And hummingbird sage really clears the chakras. So some of you already do a lot of healing work, and some of your healing work is specific around, like ascertaining which chakras are blocked and which chakras are really open. And of course, as we go through the stages of healing, you may look, or you hear someone's story as a client, you may say, wow, their second chakra, there's so much here. I want to give something to help open and clear the chakra system. And of course, if you're working with one, you've got to work with them all because they're interconnected. And so hummingbird sage is such a great plant. And how that plant grows is it almost blooms. Like it almost looks like the different chakras as it blooms. And so it can help with actually clearing each chakra system. And there's different ways that, this is where you can get really creative with essences. So, I've used hummingbird sage where I've just put it into a formula with somebody that's very protective. And maybe we're working specifically with the second chakra and it's going to help to clear out that. But I've also had, I've given it and had people just hold, put a drop or two on their palms of their hand and hold it over either each chakra as a whole system or one, if there's one that's really kind of murky. And so you can use it externally as well as internally. Okay, then we have elephant ears, which is, it's just like the most playful plant. If you know elephant ears, it's this one was collected on Maui, so it generally grows in very warm places, and it's just like a huge. It looks like a big elephant ear. When you put your palm up to it, it takes up, the plant. The leaf is like 4 times as big as your hand, and it's kind of got like the little bounciness. And so, I was collecting this essence on Maui, and I was as I've said, when you collect the essence, everything that happens is part of its medicine. So I was collecting this essence and it started raining. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm just going to get soaked. But it was kind of cold that day. Sometimes on Maui, it's like you get rained on, but you're warm and it's fine. It's kind of cold. And I thought, oh, I just don't really want to be wet. And I looked around and I thought, oh, I'm just going to sit under the elephant ear. It's an umbrella. And so I sat under the elephant ear that I was collecting, and sitting under the plant, I completely understood its medicine. It creates an umbrella. It creates an energetic field for you that's joyful and playful and uplifting. And so it's got this kind of childlike playness. So especially if somebody's going through some heaviness, or maybe they've just kind of lost that playful aspect somewhere along the line and they need protection, elephant ears is a great essence to be using. And it just really has that umbrella. Everything within that field is safe. It's protected. I didn't get rained on. I wasn't wet. I was totally dry. And then we have garlic. So garlic is, garlic as an herb, it was called the poor man's penicillin. And it was just, as an herb, it's an herbal antibiotic. And as a flower essence, it's used very similarly. So if a person has had energetics come into their field, parasitic energies, energetic entities, you can use this to start to move energies that are not of the person out. So if somebody's had just like an icky interaction with somebody and feels like that energetic is now inside of them, garlic is a great way to repel. It's great for using at the beginning of the Lyme season. If you live in a place that has really active Lyme, you can start taking in the winter because, again, it's all about repelling. So it will repel ticks. It's a repellent. And so it works in the energetic field as a repellent. It's highly, highly, was it garlic that I used? I can't remember now because some of you, I had an experience last summer in the UK at a church. Did I use garlic? Is that the one I used? I can't remember now. But I had this experience where this really creepy man came forward to me and started talking, and I had this instinct of like, I have to get away from this man. He had such, yeah, just not good energy inside of him. And I had that like part of me as a woman going like, well, I can't just like walk away from him. He's talking to me. But every part of me was like, get away from this man, get away from this man. It was just like a daytime, out for a walk in the churchyard. And so if I had felt in that moment like an energy had come into me, I would use garlic. Yeah. I may have even used garlic. I can't remember. I used something because I kept feeling him all around me even after I left. And it wasn't really him. It was an energetic that's inside of him. Okay. Then we have rosemary. So rosemary is really good for clearing the mind. Yeah, so if the energetic field is compromised, as I was saying, everything within that field is affected, including the mind. And so rosemary can really help when there's states of fear. It's the rose of Mary, and it can help to quiet the mind, get back into the body. And oh, did I forget to put St. John's wort in here? Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I forgot St. John's wort, so we'll just go through it. So rosemary is just really for dropping into the body, getting the mind to quiet. Yarrow. Yarrow is like the one for the 21st century for sure. So yarrow does a couple different things. Yarrow, this is my energetic field. This is yours. I'm giving back what doesn't belong to me. So if we've never learned how to create boundaries and how to create a field of self, you'll probably take yarrow a lot. I think I was sharing before that when I first became a practitioner, I would be so moved, deeply moved. And I would take yarrow before every session because it wasn't that I wanted to limit the emotions that I felt, but I didn't want to take it on because that was my tendency. Like, oh my gosh, I just felt this person's story. I can feel what that must have felt like when they were 2 or 3 or 4. And then when they would leave, I would still be feeling them. So yarrow is a great essence as a practitioner if that is your tendency. And you'll notice you may take it for months or a year. And then slowly that field, things don't change in an instant. If you've never learned how to create separation between yourself and another for whatever reasons, then it takes a while to not only relearn a pattern, but to repair a field that's been impacted. And so yarrow can also help with any relational issues that you have where you tend to take on what is not yours. It's enough to just have your own field. It's enough to work with and process. You definitely don't need anyone else, and it doesn't serve anyone else for you to be holding on to their stories, their energies. And yarrow is also really good for EMFs. So if you work in a hospital, or if you live near power lines, or if you live in an apartment building where, like with you're in your own home, when you go to sleep, hopefully you're turning off your Wi-Fi at night. But if you live in an apartment building, even if you turn off your Wi-Fi, you still have every other person's Wi-Fi. So, yarrow is also a great essence if you just need to repair because you've been around a lot of EMFs. You can also take it like if you know you're going into a hospital, even to visit a friend. Like when I was a doula and had to work in the hospitals, I would take it when I got home. Just like I'd take off all my clothes, I'd take a shower, and I would take yarrow just I'm moving those fields that are invisible outside of my body. And for some reason, I didn't put St. John's wort on here. I don't know why, but that is the 8th essence in your collection. And St. John's wort is what it does, that point of, that point between the 2nd and 3rd chakra. St. John's wort kind of anchors you back into there. And so there's this cord between your body and the field, the energetic field. And St. John's wort helps to strengthen that cord so that you're in your body. St. John's wort is one of the best for come into your body, come into your body, come into your body, come into your body, come into your body. So if you check out, if you have different vices, if you tend to live in the upper realms, St. John's wort. If somebody's like, I can't connect to myself, I started smoking pot again, I started drinking, I'm watching movies, I don't want to feel anything, St. John's wort, St. John's wort. It anchors, it's part of that. And it's a 5-petaled flower. So it anchors that incarnation. Like you're here and you have to take up residency in your body. You have to. Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, Tamara, you're going to put garlic essence into a sprayer for your calendula. Yes. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just, let's see, do I want to? Okay, I'm going to do this last part because I know you're all going to want it because you're going to see it in the portal. There's a protection practice this is adapted from a practice that was given to me by this woman named Jane Bell, who I don't know if she's still practicing, but if she is, or if she was, an amazing flower essence practitioner. She's gone through different health issues. So I hope she's practicing. She co-founded-ish the Alaskan Essence line with Steve, who passed away years ago. Anyway, she's an extraordinary practitioner, and I've taken many different trainings with her. And this was a practice that's adapted from a protection practice that I learned from her that I would love to invite you all to experience. So in the portal, there's an audio version of this. So you may want to listen to it once. After you listen to it once, you're not going to have to, you don't need me to say it for you every time. And here's the written part of the protection practice. And it's a really beautiful practice because it's all about this field, this energetic field, and just filling yourself up within this field, because it works both ways. It's like we want to repair the field because everything that lives inside the field then, is healthy, but it's also the healthier you are, the more you give back to the field. So it's a both and. So you can read it off or you can listen to it. You may take 20 minutes to do it. You may take 2 minutes to do it. I did this for about a year after I learned it, and I felt so different after I did it for a year, every day. You might do it multiple times a day. You're going to feel just like solid in this field, and you're going to understand more of your own energy within this space. So there's an audio for you if you choose. And if you don't want to do the protection practice, you don't have to. But I do want you to begin to explore the protection essences. So part of your homework is that, yes, you have a formula that you are taking with your practitioner. And I would like for you to use your pendulum to muscle test in whatever way you feels best to you, to pick out a protection essence every day. You may get the same protection essence every single day. And so that's telling of a place in your own field that's compromised, right? Like I always got yarrow, always. Always, always, always. I'd say like, oh, maybe today is going to be a day I get something different. No, no. I always got yarrow. I needed yarrow. And so I would like for you to test that for yourself. If it feels really good and you want to take it more than once a day, that's fine. You can just take it right from the stock bottle. You can just take a drop, take a breath, and put it back into the box until the next day. And then just notice, how that essence works for you, what it does in your body over 3 days, or even over 7 days. And you're going to start to see a big difference. Protecting and maintaining this field is something that's really often overlooked when we talk about trauma. But this field has to be stabilized in order for all the work that you're doing with trauma to stay and to anchor. So we'll go over the other formula next week that's in here. We'll kind of finish up next week with where a couple things that I want to talk more about with the protection essences. Tamara, you're asking, do the essences can be treated as storage essences? Can you unmute yourself and ask me that? I'm not sure I understand.
I'm just wondering, can we, when I say storage, like we have the mother, then you have the storage one, and that one we do the dosage. Can we do that with the one we received, or we have to take it directly from the bottle we have?
Okay, so it's called the stock.
Okay.
Wait, are you talking about the bottle you get from your practitioner or the bottle that was in the boxes?
The boxes I received, yeah. So these are the like stock storage. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
those that were sent to you are all the stock.
Okay.
Right. So from there, you're going to make, formulations for people, which are called the dosage bottle. But for right now, when you're just testing yourself, daily for protection essences, rather than diluting them further, it's totally fine. Just take a drop from those stock bottles and just use it like that. 'Cause you're just going to take a drop or 2 drops and feel it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about the protection essences? And yeah, you can put a drop in water too. Either way, you can put it just directly in your mouth from the stock bottle, or you can put in a little water, whatever you want.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes.
Obviously in the UK we haven't got our essences yet, but I have got rosemary in my garden. So I would be happy to make a rosemary essence and send that to UK people if they would like. And also I'm hugely drawn to yarrow. I always have been. And as a child, I loved the flower fairies. And the flower fairy of yarrow was just my favourite. And I used to stare at her for hours. And one of my favourite places reopened last week. It's a beautiful garden. And there were just a great big field full of yarrow. And I just stood staring at it for ages, and I didn't have anything with me to collect an essence, but I'm really called to go back and collect that essence. So if UK people would like me to send them rosemary and yarrow, if they haven't got their essences yet, then I'm really happy to do that.
Thank you so much, Laura. That is so kind. Thank you. Yeah,
No
so
worries.
maybe if you want to post that in the Facebook group so that the UK ladies can say yes or no, that's great.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that, one of the things that was coming to me when you first asked the question is, to just, because you don't have the essences to go out onto the lands. I mean, right now, And in the next couple weeks over the UK, yarrow will definitely be blooming, both the white and the pinkish red. And I don't know if we missed the St. John's wort, or maybe it's like right now. But you know, if you find it out there, it's maybe you collect the essence, and maybe you don't. But it's just being with those essences as well, being with those plants. Yeah, and also knowing you'll do the practice also when you get the essences, which will be great. But that is so kind of you. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah. And you should have Angelica there probably pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. One drop, three. Oh, okay. So one drop 3 times a day. So you can test. It may be that you take this protection essence just in the morning. You just go, oh, I'm just taking a drop or two and go on with your day. Or you may want to take it a couple times a day. So that's where you're going to use your pendulum or whatever else you use for muscle testing and see what comes forward. So you're going to ask to connect to your guides, to the angel of healing or the plant spirits. You're going to ask to be connected to your highest self. And then you can use your pendulum to go over the box and over each one, or your fingers, whatever you're using. And then you can ask, you know, am I taking this once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, 1 drop, 2 drops? This is going to be good practice for those of you who haven't done this with the essences as well. Should we take the protection essence in addition? Yeah. So, yeah, I want you to be using the protection essences in addition to the formulas you're getting with your practitioners. They're not going to inhibit it. It's really just showing you the places within your own energetic field. Most of you will be getting protection essences in that first formula. It's pretty rare that we don't put a protection essence, and that's why you're going to see why. Right? It's because that energetic field has to be stabilized to do this level of work. So I would like you to be taking both, because I want you to be seeing which protection essences are coming up for you, because that tells us something. And then how you feel as you take these essences, you know, as you're taking consistently a protection essence every day. There's not going to be interaction. It's going to be fine. And you may even want to, you know, reach out to your practitioner and say, oh, one day I got yarrow, one day I got St. John's wort, one day I got Angelica, or whoa, I'm getting St. John's wort every single day, because that's going to help them to go, oh, okay. And then maybe they have a whole line of questions that comes up for them because you're getting St. John's wort. Maybe you open into a whole conversation thread that you may not have brought up if the St. John's wort wasn't coming up every day, because that's like staying in your body. So why aren't you wanting to stay in your body? What's here? Right? So there can be a whole nother, all this other great stuff that comes forward. Okay, so, oh, we don't have class next week. Right. So when we come back in 2 weeks, I'll share a little bit that's left with the protection essences. And then I think that's when we start maybe with the stages of healing. Or maybe that's when we start the inquiry. Anyway, we're going to be kind of shifting from the beginnings of this system into like kind of the next layer of being a practitioner. So usually at week 7, module 7 is when we actually have our flower essence retreat, because it's like this moment where you step into practitioner in a different way. And so we will pick up there at that point. And at that point, I'll also just go back here to talk about this protection formula, this clearing formula. So in the meantime, do the protection practice if that resonates with you. So if you read it or you listen to the audio and it feels good, then please do that protection practice at least once a day. Test yourself daily for protection essences, and do a similar writing practice and then sharing that we've been doing about the third chakra. And please bring that into the Facebook group. If you've missed any calls, if you want to go back and listen to the first and second chakra now that we're kind of here, because with each week things clarify and are more understandable. So you may want to go back and listen. And so you can do that in the week off if you choose. Any final questions before we complete?
I have something really quick. This is Denise again. I'm having a hard time with my pendulum. So I feel, because it's something I tried to work with maybe like a year ago, and because of the fact that, it's a limited belief, I think, that I question, I question the magic a lot. And so I'm having a little bit of trouble. So I don't know if anyone has had that or if there's any suggestions. I tried to do the one with your finger, and that kind of worked for me for a little bit. And then again, it kind of questioned. And I've done the muscle testing. Actually, I've used my husband as a surrogate before, because at one point my energy level was very, very low, a couple of years ago. So any suggestions there, I would greatly appreciate it.
Well, I'm wondering, with your pendulum, are you getting answers or are you not getting anything?
So no, I have, but then it's like almost like this other voice in my head when it's like I did the shamanic journey, and one of the things he said is don't question, right? There's going to be things, and it was amazing. But then when I work with my pendulum, it's like working, and then it's like there's a hiccup, and then it's like I question everything I did prior to, and then moving forward. So that's why I think it's a lot of mental blockage.
Yeah. Well, two things. One is you could take a little lemon balm before you try. Lemon balm just like calms the mind a little bit. So, okay, let's just like calm the mind a little bit. Part of this is always just doing it, right? So when you have that box of 8 essences and you go through it, and let's say, so you pick an essence, maybe it's garlic. Part of the process is just trusting it. So it may or may not be the right essence. There is no right or wrong here. There's just whatever comes forward here in this moment. And but when you go, okay, I don't know if this is true. My mind is kind of believing maybe I'm not right. But you take the essence and you start to feel a change, then that kind of begins to anchor in a different belief, right? So some of it just really is practice and just going, okay, I'm just going to believe this to be true until my mind really just trusts it. If you're getting weird responses with your pendulum, that's kind of something different, right? It's like, okay, you're being shown, you just don't trust it. But if anyone's getting kind of like weird, like you go through the 8 essences and you get, first you get St. John's wort and you're like, I don't know about that. And then you go back through it again and you get angelica, and then you go back through it again and you get garlic, and you're like, see, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting all these different answers. Sometimes you just have to take a step away, drink a full glass of water. Sometimes when you're dehydrated, it gets wonky. Make sure your pendulum is clear and cleansed, and then go back and do it. And it's just like creating new pattern, right? So you don't believe it to be true, but you kind of have to just go with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And what starts to happen actually when you use a pendulum, what's happened for me, and I know for many other people, is that it actually starts to be at a certain point less about the pendulum, and you actually begin to feel the yes or no in your hands or your arms as an extension connected to the pendulum. You once it becomes body sensation, you can't I mean, you can keep denying it, but it's a little bit harder to question it. So it's like you just have to keep being in the practice. Just keep being in the practice. Oh yeah. So Alexandria, you're saying I'll get strong no's and strong yeses, but then a ton of maybes. And I'm like, what are the maybes about? Right. So if I kind of want to say, like, when you were first asking what's yes and no, did you say what's maybe? What's maybe? Or it's just like a weird, it's just not a yes and it's not a no.
Yeah, it comes up the maybe is like this up and down, and a yes is like a counterclockwise, a no is counterclockwise, and a no is like a cross. Like, so the maybe is like going up and down. And I'm like, I can tell that's a maybe. And I'm like, do you want me to put you to the side and like check on you later? Like, what are you asking? Does everyone want to join the party? Or are you just like, what's going on? So I'm just kind of almost counting them as no's. But then I'm like, why are they coming up as maybes? Like I'm putting them to the side. I'm like, maybe they're for like a future formula. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes true. I know that when I was first doing it, that's kind of what I would think is like, oh, it's like they're here, but maybe it's not the most divine time right now. Like I definitely had those same thoughts. I know for me, when things like, because really with a pendulum, it should just be like yes or no, right? So if something's strange like that, it's either me or the pendulum. That's like kind of what I've decided. And so oftentimes it is if I just take a huge glass of water or two, those things just disappear. And then if they keep on going, I've done different things where I've cleansed my pendulum. So either, planting in the earth for 24 hours, or I've made a spray with the protection essences and just like sprayed my pendulum, because it's either me or it, right? Those are kind of the only two things we're using. It's not spirit. And it should really be pretty clear, yes or no. Yeah, so Alexandria, you're saying you can feel the energy coming off the essence. So yeah, the more you do all of this, it's like you're going to go over essences, and it's just like before you even go over it, it's a no, because they're frequency, right? And so, and I know Alexandria has been working with Ulasita for a couple years, so it's like the energetics of essences are already in her body. So when she approaches a flower essence in a bottle, there's a shared signature. And so the more you work in the fields of energy, the more you understand the language. And so you'll feel it. You'll either feel an energy coming off the bottle, you'll feel it. I feel it. I mean, I don't even need to really turn my pendulum. I feel it in my hand, on my arm. Other people I know get different sensations in their hands or arms. So yeah, but it just takes the continued commitment to meet and show up, right? So even when you're like, I don't really know if I'm making this whole thing up, just keep showing up. It's just, there's going to be a moment where something clicks, and at that moment, the mind can't override it anymore. It's like, it can't. I wish I could give you a more concrete answer, Denise, but it's like, just keep showing up, and just make sure that you and the pendulum are clear. And
I
so
think
that's the
okay.
funny thing, is like you're using it to clear yourself, but sometimes it's because you're not clear that you can't use the pendulum, and you're like, well, how do I get the essences if I'm not clear? So you can also just, like I said, lemon balm, but you could also just take, maybe a drop of angelica, just bring in that kind of angelic field and calm your body and calm your system, and then take something. Then use your pendulum.
I think you hit it right. The perfect spot is showing up.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's a very loving reminder. to keep showing up. So
Yeah, for us all. For us
yeah.
all. Yeah. Okay, ladies. Well, always a pleasure to be with you. So just a reminder about the survey coming to you this afternoon, and to fill it out before Friday so we can figure out these sister connections that we want to create for you all. And yeah, let's just close our eyes for a moment and feeling into everything that's here for you right now. You know, everything that was spoken about your confidence and your willpower and the solar feminine and the activations of your external loving presence in the world, and also the knowingness of the essential aspect of protecting, of stabilizing your field and your body so that you can be safe, so that you can feel worthy, so that you can be confident. Giving thanks to all the plants, the flowers, and the trees, and the elementals for their generous, generous medicine. May we use it well. And so it is. Sending you all lots and lots of love. See you in a couple weeks. For those of you who haven't had your first sessions, I know that will be happening in the next couple weeks. So enjoy, and please report in our Facebook group about what's happening for you emotionally. Love you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Blessed be.